Have you ever wondered what drives a person to dedicate their entire life to an almost impossible mission? Jeremiah, one of the most prominent prophets in the Bible, endured persecution, rejection, and unimaginable suffering to fulfill God's call. His story is one of courage, resilience, and unwavering hope, a story that still resonates deeply today. Jeremiah's name means the Lord exalts, or the Lord establishes, and his life truly reflected that. Even before he was born, Jeremiah was chosen by God for a special purpose. In Jeremiah 1:5, God declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." Imagine that, being chosen by God before you even take your first breath. Born in the village of Anathoth, just a few miles from Jerusalem, Jeremiah came from a priestly family. He could have lived a peaceful life as a priest, but God had something much greater and far more challenging in mind for him. Jeremiah is often called the weeping prophet, but don't mistake this title for weakness. His tears came from a deep well of compassion and empathy for his people. Jeremiah wasn't simply a messenger. He was a man who felt the weight of his nation's sins in his very soul. He lamented the idolatry, corruption, and rebellion of Judah, knowing full well the destruction that awaited them if they didn't turn back to God. His pain is palpable in his writings, not just in the book of Jeremiah, but also in the heart-wrenching book of Lamentations. This wasn't just a man delivering warnings. This was a prophet interceding for his people, pleading with them to change before it was too late. Now let's step into the historical context of Jeremiah's life. He lived during one of the most turbulent periods in Israel's history, the decline of the southern kingdom of Judah. The powerful Babylonian Empire, led by King Nebuchadnezzar, was on the rise, threatening Jerusalem and its people. The political and religious landscape was a mess. Leaders ignored God's commandments, corruption was rampant, and the people had turned to idols. It was a time of moral and spiritual decay. And into this chaos stepped Jeremiah, a solitary voice calling for repentance, warning of judgment, and offering a chance at redemption. But here's the challenge. Who wants to hear hard truths when it's easier to live in denial? Jeremiah's message was clear, yet deeply unpopular. He warned that Jerusalem would be destroyed, that the temple, God's dwelling place, would be desecrated, and that the people would be taken into exile if they didn't turn back to God. These were not easy words for the people to hear, and they weren't what they wanted to hear either. They preferred the soothing lies of false prophets who promised peace and prosperity. As a result, Jeremiah faced constant hostility. He was mocked, imprisoned, beaten, and even thrown into a cistern to die. Yet, through it all, Jeremiah remained steadfast. His faith was unshakable, and he never wavered in his mission. One of the most powerful moments in Jeremiah's ministry comes in chapter 18, with the story of the potter and the clay. God instructs Jeremiah to visit a potter's house, where he watches the craftsman working with clay. When the vessel being shaped becomes marred, the potter simply reshapes it into something new. God uses this as a metaphor, saying, "Like clay in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand." This beautiful image reminds us of God's sovereignty and his ability to mold and transform even the most broken among us. No matter how shattered we may feel, God can create something beautiful from the pieces. But Jeremiah's message wasn't all about judgment and destruction. Even in the darkest times, he spoke of hope. In Jeremiah 31:31-34, he prophesied about a new covenant, a covenant that wouldn't be written on stone tablets, but on the hearts of God's people. This promise pointed directly to the coming of Jesus Christ and the redemption he would bring. Jeremiah's words bridged the gap between judgment and mercy, showing that God's ultimate plan was not to condemn, but to restore. Despite the immense challenges he faced, Jeremiah never gave up. His life is a testament to the power of faith and resilience. He teaches us that following God's call often comes with great personal cost. But the reward, a life lived with purpose and in alignment with God's will, is beyond measure. Today, Jeremiah's legacy continues to inspire. His courage in the face of opposition, his compassion for his people, and his unwavering commitment to truth are qualities we can all aspire to. His life reminds us that even when the world seems to be falling apart, there is always hope. And that hope comes from God's faithfulness and his promise to never abandon his people. So, how can we apply the lessons of Jeremiah to our own lives? Maybe you're facing challenges or feel like the odds are stacked against you. Jeremiah's story is a reminder that God is with us, even in the toughest times. It's a call to stand firm in our convictions, to be brave enough to speak the truth, and to trust in God's plan, even when it feels like no one else does. If this story has inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs encouragement today. Jeremiah wasn't just a prophet. He was a symbol of unwavering faith and perseverance. And now it's up to us to carry his message of hope into the world.